Hi, I'm Sophia Green and this is the Riff Raff makeup tutorial for shadow casting. For those of you who don't know me, I don't play Riff Raff in my cast, so this isn't one that I do on a regular basis by any means. And as you probably have noticed, I don't look anything like Richard O'Brien. I have a round, feminine face shape with low cheekbones. This tutorial will help you learn how to contour your face to get those high cheekbones and that gaunt, sunken look that he gets for the movie. So let's get started. I always start with a foundation primer just to make sure, especially when I'm performing, that the makeup doesn't sink into my pores and give me more skin problems than I already have. I also use an eye primer for any time I put on eye makeup. Not only does it protect that delicate skin on your eyes, but it helps the makeup stick better and you can get a truer color. So now that I have my primers on, I'm going to use a foundation. As you can see, I'm pretty pale to begin with. If you are not, I recommend you use a very, very light skin tone. Probably not white face, but I would go with the lightest skin tone that you can find. So I'm just going to put foundation all over my face. There, now I have my foundation on. Again, if you're a really pale person, paler than I am normally, you probably don't need to wear foundation unless you feel like you need it, which kind of, I realize, is an oxymoron now that I've said it. But if you have an uneven complexion or you just want to even things out, it's always a good choice to wear foundation, even if you're a boy, and you don't normally wear that kind of makeup. In any case, I'm now wearing the lightest skin tone foundation I can find, and it's time to do some contouring. So for this, I use an eyebrow brush. You can see it's got kind of a chisel tip. It's really, really precise, and it's good for getting really clean lines. I use this for the cheekbones. So I'm going to start with my dark brown eyeshadow color. Now this like I said, is a brown. I don't use grays when I do Riff makeup. I've seen a lot of Riffs do grays. I think that it kind of makes you look more dirty than it does contoured. But really, to each his own. As long as you're using a variety of shades to kind of get a more blended look, that's the way to go. So for cheekbones, like I said at the beginning, I have really low cheekbones. So if I were to go under my cheekbone, it would be down here. If you feel in your face, you can feel where your cheekbone is. If you don't have very high cheekbones to begin with, you're going to want to go on top of the cheekbone, not below it. So I'm going to be looking for the very peak of my cheekbone, and I'm going to follow it all the way back, and there's where my line is going to be. And you're going to draw it down just to under where your eye is. So I'm going to take my dark brown, and I'm going to create that line. Alright, so that is the very faint beginning of a cheekbone line. I'm going to do the same on the other side. So now is the time to make sure that your lines are even with one another, because you don't want to have lopsided cheekbones. So you just want to make sure they're ending at the same place, that they have the same angle generally. It's not going to make a huge difference if it's slightly off, but you definitely don't want one flat and one going straight up, because then you're going to look like you have some sort of deformity or mutation, because after all, we're drawing bones here. So now that you have your lines going down that end right about at the corner of your eye, you're going to bring it straight down, like that. And you don't want a sharp corner here, you want it to curve a little bit. Alright, so now I have slightly uneven, but hold on. There we go. So now I have the general outline for where I'm going to draw my cheekbones. just as kind of a little thing that I've noticed when looking at Riff's actual makeup. It kind of comes up a little bit here as well. So just a subtle little kind of tail on your cheekbone there. We'll make it look a little more real. So now you have your general line to go on. You're going to then add a second line at your temple, and you're going to look for, if you feel your temple, there's a part where there's kind of a ridge right on your forehead. That ridge is what you're going for. So it comes off of your eyebrow and up into your head. So I'm just going to draw that ridge right there. That's all it is. It should be parallel to the other line. Alright. And now we're going to connect those two lines together with a semicircle. Alright, so there's your boundary for shading. It looks really silly right now, but it's going to look a lot better in a little bit. Now you're going to want to take a contour brush, something a little bit thicker with a good tip to it, and you're going to dig into your more dull brown. The one that I use is called Espresso. So you dip into the espresso and you just shade in the corners that you just made. Now this is a little bit more of a grayish brown, but it's still a brown. So you shade in what you just made, and you're just going on the outside of that line, creating a thicker line along it. And just a tiny bit right here in the corner. Alright, so then you do the same thing up at the temple. You fill in that little kind of triangle point that you made with your line. Now you're going to keep going with what you're doing, but you're going to be using a cheek brush, which is a bit thicker, and you're going to fill in the rest of that space. Essentially, you're just going to be connecting what's here, and if you actually make a duck lip face, you can kind of see the line you're going to create there. So that's what you're going to fill in. And you're going to keep going up outside your semicircle. So now you have the general cheekbones all done, and just as kind of a finishing touch, you can go back to that contour brush, back to the brown you started with, and kind of emphasize that line right there and blend it into the two different colors. Alright, so those are my cheekbones. Just a couple other contouring areas for Riff Raff to kind of add an extra emphasis on the chin area. You're going to want to shade around the round place on your chin. A little emphasis on the chin. And then also, and I use a much lighter brown for this part. This shade's called hazelnut. I use the hazelnut to create a contour on my nose. So essentially, you're going to be drawing a triangle on the side of your nose to accentuate the bone and the bridge of your nose. So now I have my nose emphasized, I have my cheekbones emphasized, my chin, because I'm a woman and don't pull off that dude look so much. I always add a little bit of shading right in the middle above my cupid's bow to kind of emphasize the look of the mouth, kind of creates a more manly look. Now, moving on to the eyes. I start with a light brown all over my lid, all the way up to my eyebrow. Alright, and then I use that dark brown, the same one that I used for the lines in my cheeks, all over the lid. And then, this is the part that a lot of people miss. Use a reddish, I actually use a dark blush under the eyes. So here I'm basically just creating bags under my eyes, which is technically the opposite of what you do in most makeup, but for Riff Raff's case, it's what you need to emphasize. So a dark, kind of brownish red blush is what I use for under the eyes. Alright, now, just a couple of final touches. You're going to want to take that same reddish color, drag it up, almost like windshield wipers, up in the crease of your eye to make your eyes look a little more sunken. Alright, you're going to want to bring a little bit of brown down into the dark circles of your eyes. It's kind of hard to see in this video, but down here is where I'm looking to go, which is just below where the red tone is. Basically everything that you normally try to cover up in the morning is what you're trying to accentuate here. So here I have bags under my eyes, I have dark circles that are accentuated. And then the final contour that we need to add is the brow. So if you kind of crinkle your eyebrows together, you're basically just wanting to shade that in. So I create a nice low center line. And then just fill it in with the crease brush below the Alright, and just as a final touch, I have invisible blonde eyebrows. Riff Raffs are a bit darker than a true blonde, so you're going to want to take some kind of makeup to create the eyebrows if you have blonde eyebrows like mine. So I'm just going to take a brown and create that straight across, heavy, low eyebrow. So that's essentially it. Up close, it looks pretty cartoonish, but on stage, it's going to look a lot more realistic. Because really, Richard O'Brien's makeup is just an accentuation of his already gaunt face. whereas someone like me who doesn't have that has to create it with a lot of makeup. So if you're like me, make sure you stand back when you're looking at your work so that you can appreciate it from a distance. But yeah, that's essentially it. Be sure to like me on Facebook at Rocky Horror Makeup by Sofia Green. I sell all the makeup you just saw me use, so if you're looking for the right shades, I got you covered. If you disagree with any of the choices I made in this tutorial, or if you're the kind of person who likes to stray from the screen accurate look and make it a little more crazy, there's a guy that I sometimes perform with who wears crazy contacts. I've seen a lot of Riff Raffs go all out with it. So if you're that kind of person and you prefer not to do the basic bone structure tutorial, I would love to see your work. So if you want to comment on this video, or if you want to post on my Facebook page, I would love to see how you do Riff Raff. Because like I said, it's not one of my regulars. So that's essentially it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.